Grace and peace. This is Renee Teague, the pastor of Enon United Methodist Church in Studley, Virginia. A few years ago, one of my daughters had a bumper sticker that said, "Stay human. Stay human." It's pretty easy for us to let our humanity slip away. What is it to be human? What makes us different than other creatures, or what makes us fulfill the true purposes that God has put before us? In Christian language, our humanity is defined in the greatest commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. The truth is, unless you know yourself and love yourself, you can't know God or love God. Those two come completely hand in hand. So the more you learn of yourself, the more you are learning of God. And the more you learn of God, the more you're able to see yourself. And when you're able to see your own brokenness and your own sinfulness and rest that in God's care, then you find that you can look at your neighbor and love them as you know you've been loved and as you now can love yourself. Until you come to the point that you can be compassionate with yourself and with your own fallenness and brokenness. And to do that, you have to accept that you are. Ego and pride and fear and anger all cover over those parts of our humanity and stop us from being human. They stop us from being human to ourselves, and they stop us from behaving as humans toward our neighbors. Another way we can think of this is that our compassion is dependent on having received God's compassion, having seen our unworthiness, having seen our worthiness, and receiving God's compassion toward us, accepting that compassion and then having it toward ourselves. We've been watching one of those waste of time Netflix shows. And this one is called Alone. And it's these wonderful survivalist trained people. And they are out in the Arctic. And they stay there as long as they physically can. And the last one there wins $500,000. The next to the last person in this season was a woman. And the woman looked at her own body. And she said, "I need to take care of my body so that I can be cared for as well. It's more important right now for me to feed and rest and keep warm this body than it is for me to worry about this money and what that might allow tomorrow to hold." When was the last time you looked at your own body and knew that you were at home? I am at home. This human contraption that you are, that your self rolls around in, your meat suit. That body deserves your compassion. And when you are compassionate and giving and caring toward yourself, then you find that you are compassionate and giving and caring toward others. Our text today is from Matthew 11:28 and 29. "Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." It's pretty easy for me to know how tired I get. And it's easy for me to know how frustrating I have found a lot of things in dealing with COVID-19 and trying to reformulate life and get the basic things done and the difficulties that all of that brings. It's like an extended snow day or recovery from a hurricane that's gone on for months and months and months. And it's pretty easy for me to know how tired I am and how grumpy I can become. Compassion allows me to see that in the other. Jesus says when we cling to Jesus, we don't have this weariness and heavy burden. These burdens we carry aren't from God. If it's difficult and struggle, Jesus wants to be there to help you. And Jesus tells us that in order to carry these burdens, we need to love the Lord our God with our heart, mind, and soul, which means to rest those burdens on Him. And then we need to love our neighbor as ourselves, because we can't possibly carry out the activities of resting in God and caring for ourselves without our neighbors. One of the things in the Alone TV show that harms these people so is they are all miles and miles apart, and it's just one. It's one in this space and one in that space and one in the other space. And so the one that is good at trapping and the one that is good at shooting and the one that is good at fishing, they are separated. And really what they need to survive is the community of them together. What we need is one another. And to have that, we have to show compassion. We have to love our neighbor as ourselves and lay our burdens down on God to allow Jesus to walk with us, rather than becoming tired and angry and grumpy and losing our good sense and our compassion. There's an old hymn that fits this so well. Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love, the fellowship of kindred minds is like to that above. To share with one another is to be God's children. Amen.